Lee Perry, that many of you are familiar with already for his game design, including Gears of War, designed and made available a mod kit for the Hot Wheels Porsche 917. He posted some photos on the Facebook Gaslands group page, and the minute I saw it, I knew I had to give it a try. He has it available for free download, and I'll put a link down below in the description for the video. So I downloaded that, printed it out. It's a pre-supported file, so it scaled perfectly too. It didn't require any adjustment. And so printed that thing out, and then I started rummaging through my bin of Porsches because I was sure I had an extra 917. But I didn't. And I'm not the most patient person in the world, and I didn't want to order one and wait for it. And yeah, that's just me. People who know me know I'm not the most patient person in the world. So I rummaged through what I had, trying to find something close to a 917, and I came across the Porsche 911 GT1-98 that you saw at the start of the video and you see me holding there. It's pretty much beat to hell. There are some substantial differences between the 917 and this. The one that particularly stood out that didn't hit me at first is how far back the side windows go. So I did have a 917 that I had customized earlier that I held the printing up against, and it would have just popped right on there fantastically. But no, I had to find a difficult way to do it and make it more interesting for me along the way. You know, I like hacking stuff up. So I decided, yeah, I'll go with this 911 GTI-98, and it's going to require some tweaks. You may notice that I'm using an X-Acto saw to do the cutting instead of the jeweler saw. On the comments of an earlier video, somebody mentioned, hey, you know, for just straight cuts, why don't you try the X-Acto saw? They had never had any problems with it. I had used the X-Acto saw years ago, but only for styrene. And so I think that kind of stuck in my mind, and I never thought about actually cutting a casting with it. So it worked fantastic, and I will definitely do it again. If I don't need super fine cuts, it's really worked well. You do see me breaking out the jeweler saw here and making cuts. There is nothing that messes with your mind more than trying to customize a resin part because they're so fragile. And so I took my time. I modified that piece that Lee Perry had designed so wonderfully, I had the nerve to cut a chunk off of it. So nobody tell him. And if he happens to find out, I hope he doesn't mind. You may see there how shiny that is. I did take it to the grinding wheel after I had cut it where I wanted it, grinded down a few areas, and that worked really well to get it where I wanted it. The kit that he designed also comes with wheels. It's not a roller. Those wheels will be glued in place, but the wheels are fantastic. And he also has wheel designs. It's a really interesting way he's done these wheels. And I believe those are over on Thingiverse. This particular download of these 917 parts was on my Mini Factory. But the wheel design, it's interesting the way he designs the tires and wheels as separate pieces. And you can adjust, like if you want to sink the wheel in or make the tires wider, it's hard to explain until you see it, but you can adjust it yourself and you can sink that wheel portion down into the tire and get some fantastic looking designs. So I will definitely be using his wheels in the future. I've downloaded the Thingiverse files as well. And I don't know if I mentioned this. These are free designs. Like this design, you see that I've stuck on the car there. Yeah, I'm using JB Weld. very finely, because after this cut, I still want the glass to fit. And the base I'm still putting on that's ahead of that printed section. But anyhow, what I was about to say is these downloads of his are free. They're exceptionally good designs. Until you see it, and like this one's pre-supported. It's not like you even have to think about adding supports. I printed it on Elegoo Mars printer and couldn't have gone any better. It may be one of the best prints I've ever done. And the fact that it's free just kind of leaves you shaking your head in a good way. But yeah, I got this attached on there. And as you saw at the very start, I used super glue to attach it. And then I used JB Weld just to strengthen the adhesion a little bit. And you're going to see me use a super fine little line of JB Weld on the upper portion here by the body. I did not strip the paint off the casting, as you can see, because I wanted it to keep the race car look. It was already beat to hell, and I want this to have a beat to hell look when I'm finished. So a kid in nature took its toll on this already for me. I didn't need to do anything special. I'm just going to weather it a little. I did, there is a Hot Wheels logo that's on there. If you look at the original turntable shot, even where this cut fell, there was going to be a Hot Wheels logo. I did use dry erase marker to remove that specific logo, but I left everything else on there because honestly, I just like the look of it. So now I end up, now that I have the back on there the way I want it, I cut the base down to size. And I'm using the heck out of the X-Acto saw in this build. But after that first cut, I cut it slightly long, which I would rather have it a little oversized and then sand it down to size and cut it too short. So that's where that ended up. The glass fit in perfectly, so I didn't, that's one of the things when you're doing work with JB Weld or any adhesive like that, where you're adding something, you still are using the glass. You have to think about these pieces, and you don't want your glue to interfere with, say, dropping the glass in or dropping the interior in. And there's that weird little seat cockpit kind of section. That back area went to the back of the 911. So it's just a matter of cutting off the excess on these. I was really pleased, though, that the glass did drop in. The glass is beat to hell, but the whole car's beat to hell. I wanted to have a beat to hell look. I had, see how the glass just dropped in there without any modification? And then the interior, and then the base, the portion of the base that remains. At this point, I was pretty pleased with how it was going. I did shoot the back with flat black, and then I started adding some detail. And this is typically the way I'll do it. I'll highlight brightly, the bright items, and then I'll go over that and weather it. I decided to use a copperish color for the engine area. A lot of these chunks of the video will be accelerated. As it was, even with selective recording to the video, there was over 3 hours of video that I had to edit down on this thing because a lot of it is just, and I hate to say this, when you look at it at the end, I don't know that the time involved really shows, because I had over 3 hours of video on this, and that's hardly recording everything. And, it just looks like it's beat to hell at the end. I went over everything with Nuln Oil to give it a nice, greasy, grimy kind of look. The pipes and everything on there, the structure of the back, a lot of that was done with silver Sharpie and then also brushed. And some of that was with Citadel's paints. And then, oh, here, I forgot about the front attachment. It needed to be modified a little too to fit this casting properly. Again, doing all of this very gingerly. I didn't really forget it. There was part of me that was thinking I was going to attach it to that bottom, that separate bottom portion. And then I really realized, no, it needs to be attached to the headlight area. And then that bottom piece is just going to screw in. So very gingerly. The resin pieces are so easy to break that you really need to be patient and take your time. You also do not want to be breathing in any of this resin dust. Fortunately, this thing lays very flat, and so I just placed it where I wanted it, checked it out. There's such nice pieces that he's created. There's another set for the Erikenstein rod, if I'm pronouncing that properly. And then again, the wheel set that I mentioned that he's designed. It's just, I can't wait to mess around with that. I've done a little messing around with it already. It's impressed the hell out of me what you can do with it. AK's matte varnish, I hit it with that. Prior to using the weathering powders you see at the top, I wanted to seal in what I had already. And again, that's after the Nuln Oil coating as well. I did also do some detailing of small areas with a fine-tip Gundam marker. Specifically, the scoop above the cockpit, right above the front glass there, I darkened that in black so that you actually saw the intake, and that notch in the hood right at the base of the windshield. I also, I don't believe I show it when we get there, but after I weather the windshield, I used that super fine Gundam marker as well to draw in the windshield wiper. After that matte varnish had dried is when I went over it with these powders. And again, this is just to give it a dusting. There's a darker sand color and a lighter sand color in that little tray you see there. I did not use the darkest one, the mud one. But I used this to, again, just bring out a little more detail, a little more weathering. And after I did this, I did go over it with the matte varnish again, once I had all of the powders the way I wanted them. See? Told you. Now this may seem a little backward, but I did polish the windshield and the headlight areas. The headlight areas were particularly rough, and so I didn't bother. They're that weird rubbery plastic, and I knew if I tried to sand them, it would have been a real hot mess. This is a weathered build anyway. This is a beat to hell build anyway. So I wasn't too concerned about them. I think my thinking was I'll get the windshield shiny before I beat the hell out of it, or before I dust it. And It does have some gouges that I did not want to try to remove, but I did at least polish it all up. Because I did, as you'll see, I wanted to have like a clean spot. And if you take a look, if you go into the Gaslands group on Facebook, you can see Lee's build of it. And as I recall, it was like a red paint scheme with a stripe. It turned out beautifully. That is on a 917, what it was designed for. It's a beautiful build. One of the things he did was he had a clear area on the windshield around the wiper. I really liked that. I thought, well, how am I going to recreate that? And I thought, well, let me just take a little chunk of tape, stick that down. Nothing fancy. Before I weathered this, just so you know, after doing the polishing, I did wash that piece just to make sure there wasn't any residue of the polish left behind. And a lot of this is such fiddly little work. But that's actually curved a little bit. I don't know if you can really see it. But I did cut that little chunk curved a little bit, as if it was the wiper going back and forth. And then I used the weathering powder on that as well. And then once this was finished off camera, I end up hitting that with a matte clear. And then I pull off the little piece of tape when you have this little clean area. And if I remember right, I think I put the wiper on after painting the clear. But I don't know that it matters either way. There's a link. There you see the address for at least the file that you're seeing here. That's at my mini factory to get to Lee's designs. And then again, he does have his wheel designs you would need to search for on Thingiverse. So there's the assembly of the basic car itself, and now all we have left are wheels and tires. As I mentioned before, this is not a roller. And so I printed all of this in water washable gray resin. I wish I had printed it in the black resin, but I don't know. I wasn't thinking properly when I printed it. So I needed to hit the tires with flat black at first, then I painted the centers silver, and then it was a matter of weathering the tires. I'm still trying to figure out weathering. It's pretty obvious. What I wanted was the sand in the tracks and then the raised areas to be more clean on the tires. So I kind of heavily hit it with the sand, and then the reason you see me going over it with the paper towel is to clean it off the raised areas. And for whatever reason, they look really good when they're stuck to those little pieces of tape. But when I finally get them actually to the car, I don't know that all of that work shows up. I know I'm losing some of that when I hit them with the clear coats, when I go over it with the matte varnish, but I'll figure it out. As I mentioned before, these wheels are glued on for the back wheels. And you see that there's a sheet of styrene down there. Basically, that styrene is just giving me the height I want that car to sit above the ground. So I stick the front half on that styrene, and that will be the height of the car as I glue these back wheels and tires on. I did use spacers. He included some spacers, and on his build, he had the front wheels at an angle, and it looked really sharp. And I didn't want to push it, so I just went with flat spacers and kept the wheel straight. I would really like to thank Lee Perry for doing these designs and making them available free. Such fantastic work that he's sharing with the community. So check it out. Check out his work. It was really a pleasure to work with. Here's where I ended up. I hope you like this build. I had a fun time doing it. And as I was doing this, I realized I definitely want to get a 917 casting. I'm going to use these parts again. I'm going to print out another set. And I'm going to take it a different direction than this one's going. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate that you sit through these. I hope you enjoy them. I appreciate all of your support. And this stuff's fun. If you're not doing it, give it a shot. Everybody stay safe and healthy out there. And special thanks to my Patreon supporters. And catch you in the next one.